When a woman realizes she's lost your attention, it shakes her in a way few things can. Attention is more than just looking at her or replying to her texts. It's the energy you give, the time you invest, and the priority you place on her in your life. When that fades, she feels it instantly. In the beginning, most men give women constant focus. You answer her calls right away, rearrange your schedule for her, and make sure she knows she's wanted. At first, she enjoys it. But the more she gets it without having to earn it, the more it becomes background noise. She stops valuing it because she believes it will always be there. Then comes the shift. You start focusing on yourself again. You're out with friends more, you're working on your goals, you're not rushing to reply to every message. Maybe you've simply decided to stop putting her above everything else. That's when something changes in her. She starts noticing your absence, not just physically, but emotionally. I've seen this happen over and over. The same woman who once seemed distant suddenly starts showing up, checking in and trying to re-engage. She might become more affectionate, more curious about your day, or even a little competitive for your time. It's not always love. Sometimes it's her ego realizing she's no longer in control of your focus. This isn't about playing games. It's about understanding that your attention has value, and if she doesn't respect it, you have every right to take it back. When you do, her reaction will reveal exactly where you stand in her life, and whether she truly values you or just the validation you gave her. Section 1. She starts overcompensating to win you back. When a woman feels that your attention is slipping away, the first and most common reaction is overcompensation. This is when she begins putting in more effort than before, suddenly becoming sweeter, more affectionate, or more available than she's been in weeks or even months. The shift can be so sudden that it catches you off guard, especially if you've grown used to her being distant or complacent. In real life, it looks like this. You used to send her a good morning text every day, and she rarely initiated it back. But after a week of you not doing it, one morning your phone lights up with her message first. Or maybe you always made plans to see her, but after you stop, she's the one asking when you're free. She might even surprise you with things she knows you like, cooking your favorite meal, suggesting activities you enjoy, or complimenting you more. On the surface, it feels like she's suddenly more caring, but beneath it is a deeper reason. She feels the loss of your attention and wants it back. The psychology behind this is simple. People, in general, value what's scarce. When your attention was overflowing, she could take it for granted. Now that it's rare, it becomes more valuable. Your absence creates a void, and she instinctively moves to fill it. This isn't always a conscious plan on her part. Sometimes she doesn't even fully realize why she's doing more. She just feels unsettled by the change and reacts to it. Here's where most men make a mistake. They see this sudden effort as proof that everything is fixed, and instantly go back to giving her all their attention again. The problem is, if she hasn't truly changed her mindset, she'll fall back into old habits once she feels secure. This is why you need to stay grounded, appreciate the effort, but don't lose yourself in it. Keep focusing on your goals, your life, and your boundaries. Think of it like a negotiation. When someone starts offering you more, it's because they feel they're losing leverage. If you instantly give in, you remove the very pressure that made them step up. The key is to allow her to prove over time that her increased effort is genuine and not just a temporary reaction to the fear of losing you. When she starts overcompensating, it's a sign that the power dynamic has shifted in your favor. She's realizing you're not someone she can take for granted, and that realization, if handled correctly, can reset the balance of respect and effort in your relationship for the long term. Section 2. Her curiosity turns into subtle interrogation. When a woman realizes she's losing your attention, her mind starts racing with questions, and it often shows in the way she talks to you. This isn't always a direct confrontation where she outright asks, "Why are you ignoring me?" More often, it's a slow, calculated shift in her conversations with you. She begins probing, looking for small clues about where your focus is going, and it feels like she's trying to solve a puzzle in her head. At first, it might be subtle. She casually asks, "So, what have you been up to lately?" Or, "Who were you with last night?" These questions can seem harmless, but they're rarely random. When you used to freely tell her everything, she didn't have to ask. But now, when you've pulled back, she's forced to fish for information. This is her way of trying to figure out whether you've lost interest, whether someone else has caught your eye, or whether she's done something to push you away. In real life, you might notice she starts paying more attention to small details. If you post a picture with friends on social media, she suddenly comments or messages you about it. If you mention a new female coworker or friend in passing, she may bring her up again days later, pretending it's a casual remark, but really checking to see how important that person is in your life. Even your changes in mood, style, or schedule might catch her attention in ways they never did before. This curiosity isn't always about jealousy. Sometimes it's about control. Your attention was once predictable and now it's not. That unpredictability makes her uncomfortable because she no longer feels in control of how you see her or how much you value her. Her subtle interrogation is her way of regaining some of that control by gathering as much information as she can. The important thing for you as a man is not to over-explain yourself. A common mistake men make is feeling the need to justify every change in their behavior. If she asks, "Why didn't you text me last night?" many men instinctively apologize or give a long-winded explanation, but that only puts you back in a position of seeking her approval. Instead, keep your answers short, confident, and calm. Not defensive, not hostile, just secure in the fact that your life doesn't need constant validation. When she realizes she can't easily read you anymore, it creates a shift in her perception. You're no longer the man whose every move revolves around her, and that can be both intriguing and frustrating for her. Her curiosity turning into subtle interrogation is a sign that she's mentally investing in you again, but this time, she's doing the chasing. If you handle this stage with patience and confidence, you keep the power balance in your favor while also allowing her to reveal how much she's truly willing to work for your attention. Section 3. She tries to trigger jealousy to regain control. When a woman feels she's losing your attention, one of the oldest and most instinctive plays in her book is to make you feel a little jealous. This isn't always because she's genuinely interested in someone else. Often it's a strategic move to spark an emotional reaction in you and regain the power she feels slipping away. The goal is simple. If she can make you react, it reassures her that you still care, that she still has an emotional hold on you, and that your attention can still be pulled back to her. You might see this in obvious ways. Suddenly she's talking more about male friends, co-workers, or someone who's been messaging her. She might casually drop a story about a night out where she got a lot of attention. On social media, you might notice more revealing photos, playful captions, or tags with other men in the background. These changes often come right after you've been less available, less responsive, or more focused on your own life. But sometimes the jealousy play is more subtle. Maybe she starts taking longer to reply and then mentions she was busy hanging out with people without naming names. Maybe she intentionally leaves small hints that suggest other men are interested in her, knowing your mind will fill in the blanks. Women understand the power of implication. They don't always have to say something directly to plant the seed of curiosity and competition in your head. The psychology here is important. Jealousy can be used as a test. She's trying to measure whether you're still emotionally invested enough to respond. If you suddenly become more attentive, check in more often, or question her about these situations, she knows she's succeeded. That's why the most effective way to handle this is by not giving her the reaction she's hoping for. Staying calm, secure, and focused on your own priorities sends a clear message. Your emotions can't be manipulated so easily. In real-life scenarios, I've seen men completely lose their progress in reclaiming power because they fell for this trap. A guy starts pulling back to focus on himself. She feels the shift. She posts a flirty photo with another man in the background, and suddenly he's calling her, asking questions, or trying to reassert himself. The moment you do that, you've handed her the control she was trying to get back. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about genuinely being in a place where your self-worth isn't tied to whether or not she's entertaining other people. When you're truly grounded in yourself, her attempts to trigger jealousy become almost transparent. You see them for what they are. Signs that she's feeling the loss of your attention and scrambling to restore the dynamic to where she was in control. If you can resist the bait and maintain your focus, she'll quickly realize that the old tricks don't work anymore. And that's when the balance of respect shifts even further in your favor. Section 4. Emotional swings become more obvious. When a woman starts feeling the loss of your attention, her emotions can become unpredictable. One day she might act warm, affectionate, and eager to connect with you, and the next she's distant, short-tempered, or even cold. These emotional swings aren't random. They're often a direct response to the internal battle she's having, wanting your attention back, feeling frustrated that she doesn't have it, and not knowing exactly how to regain it. Think about it like this. When she was confident in your attention, her emotions were stable because she felt secure in her position in your life. But when you pull back, it creates uncertainty. That uncertainty can spark moments of affection when she's trying to win you over again, followed by moments of irritation when her efforts don't immediately work. It's the push-pull dynamic, and you'll often see it more clearly once you've stopped chasing. In real life, you might notice her texting you enthusiastically one evening, asking about your day, maybe even suggesting plans. Then, if you don't respond the way she hopes, the next day her tone changes, replies are slower, shorter, or laced with passive-aggressive remarks. This can also happen in person. She could start a conversation acting playful and charming, but if she senses you're still not fully locked back onto her, her mood shifts, and she becomes quieter or more guarded. The underlying reason is that emotions are tied to perceived control. When she had control over your focus, she didn't have to think about it. Now every interaction feels like a test to her, and when those tests don't go in her favor, it triggers frustration or even resentment. The affection is her way of trying to pull you closer, and the coldness is her way of expressing that she's not getting the result she wants. This is where a lot of men get thrown off. They interpret her warm days as proof she's coming back and her cold days as proof she's losing interest. In reality, both are just part of the same process, her trying to adjust to the new reality where you're not fully in her control anymore. The key for you is to stay steady. Don't get overly excited on the warm days, and don't get discouraged on the cold days. If you ride her emotional roller coaster, you'll lose the stability that made her notice your absence in the first place. Your consistency in the face of her inconsistency is what will ultimately set you apart. Over time, if you don't fold under her emotional swings, she'll begin to settle into the fact that she can't control your mood with hers. That realization forces her to approach you with more respect and genuine interest, rather than relying on emotional tactics to get your attention. Section 5. She revisits old memories to rekindle connection. When a woman senses she's lost your attention, one of the more subtle but powerful tactics she may use is revisiting old memories. This is her way of trying to emotionally anchor you back to a time when you were fully invested in her. It's not always an obvious move. She might not come right out and say, "Remember when you loved me more?" Instead, she'll drop small references to moments you shared, times when you were happiest together, or experiences that once brought you closer. You might hear her say things like, "This song reminds me of that night we went out to that little bar," or she might send you a picture from a trip you took together. She might even bring up a joke or phrase you both used to laugh about. These moments aren't just nostalgia, they're strategic. She's trying to reignite the emotional bond that existed when your attention was at its peak. In real life, I've seen this happen in long-term relationships and even casual dating. Maybe you've been distant for a couple of weeks, and suddenly she sends you an old photo of the two of you smiling at a party with the caption, "We had so much fun that night." Or maybe you're having a casual conversation and she steers it toward that one weekend getaway you took where things felt perfect. These memory cues are designed to make you feel something, to pull you back into that emotional space where she was a priority. The psychology behind this is simple. People remember emotions more than events. By bringing up those moments, She's hoping you'll feel the same warmth, excitement, or intimacy you felt back then, and that those feelings will override your current sense of detachment. In her mind, if she can remind you of the best version of us, you might want to recreate it. The challenge for you as a man is not to get swept away in the emotion without seeing the bigger picture. Those memories might be real and meaningful, but they're also in the past. The question you have to ask yourself is whether her present behavior matches the feelings she's trying to bring back. If her actions now don't align with the connection she's reminiscing about, then her trip down memory lane is more about regaining your attention than rebuilding something solid. When you acknowledge the memories but keep your focus on the present reality, you maintain control of the dynamic. You can appreciate the sentiment without letting it cloud your judgment. And if she's serious about truly reconnecting, she'll have to put in consistent effort today, not just rely on reminders of what you once had. By staying grounded, you ensure that any reconnection that happens is built on current respect and effort, not just nostalgia and emotional triggers. Section 6. Her respect for you quietly increases. When you stop pouring all your attention into a woman who has grown used to it, something interesting begins to happen beneath the surface. At first, she might resist the change, test you, or try to pull you back into the old dynamic. But over time, if you remain steady, she starts to look at you differently. Without you forcing it, her respect for you begins to grow. This shift often happens quietly. You won't necessarily hear her say it out loud, but you'll notice it in the way she treats you. In the early stages of losing your attention, she might see it as a challenge. She may believe she can act the way she wants and still have you wrapped around her finger. But when you prove otherwise, when you show that you won't break your focus, lower your standards, or compromise your self-respect just to please her, you set yourself apart from the men who do. This is where respect takes root. You might start to notice small changes. She listens more closely when you speak. She stops interrupting you as often. She gives your time and schedule more consideration instead of assuming you'll drop everything for her. She might even start to mirror your energy, giving you the same level of attention and effort you give her, instead of expecting you to carry the whole connection. In real life, I've seen this transformation happen with men who finally stopped being overly available. One guy I worked with used to answer every one of his girlfriend's texts within minutes, no matter what he was doing. When he started putting his work and personal goals first, his replies naturally became less instant. At first she complained, but as time passed, she began to respect his priorities and even started supporting his ambitions. His shift showed her that his life didn't revolve around her, and ironically, that made her value him more. The psychology behind this is tied to human nature. People respect what they can't easily control. When she realizes you're not going to bend at every emotional shift she has, she sees you as more solid, more masculine, and more dependable. This doesn't mean you become cold or dismissive. It means you show that you have boundaries and a life of your own. The key is consistency. If you only pull back for a short period and then quickly revert to old habits, the respect won't stick. She'll see it as a temporary phase rather than a fundamental part of who you are. But if you maintain your independence and standards long term, her quiet respect becomes lasting. Over time, that respect becomes the foundation for a healthier dynamic. She sees you as a man who values himself, and because of that, she values you more. And the best part? This respect wasn't demanded, argued for, or begged for. It was earned by simply living in a way that shows you know your worth. Section 7. She tests your boundaries to see if you'll break. When a woman realizes she's losing your attention, one of her final moves is to test your boundaries. This isn't always malicious. Sometimes it's instinctive. She wants to see if the new version of you, the man who's no longer giving her endless attention, is real or just temporary. It's her way of checking whether your shift is genuine or just a reaction that will fade once she pushes the right buttons. These tests can come in many forms. She might bring up topics she knows used to get an emotional reaction from you. She might forget something you've told her is important to you, just to see how you'll respond. She could even try to recreate situations from the past where she was able to pull you back in. Maybe by being flirtatious one moment and distant the next, hoping to trigger you into chasing again. In real life, this could look like her cancelling plans last minute to see if you'll immediately try to reschedule, or teasing you about other men to gauge your reaction. She might also intentionally push emotional boundaries, like making a joke at your expense in front of friends, to see if you'll laugh it off or call it out. These moments are not random. They're calculated checks to see whether you're still the man she can sway whenever she wants. The psychology here is tied to human behavior. People test what they're unsure about. If she's not fully convinced that you've changed, she'll create small challenges to find out. The mistake most men make is failing these tests by reacting emotionally or abandoning the boundaries they've set. The moment you give in, she gets confirmation that the old dynamic still works, and she can go back to her comfortable position of control. The right way to handle these tests is through calm consistency. If you've decided you won't tolerate certain behaviors, hold that line without making it a big drama. If you're busy and she tries to pull you away from your priorities, politely but firmly stick to your schedule. If she tries to provoke jealousy or disrespect, address it once and then move on. The key is to respond, not react. Over time, if you keep passing these tests, she'll realize that your boundaries aren't a temporary tactic. They're part of who you are now. This not only keeps the power balance in your favor, but also deepens her respect for you. She sees you as a man who cannot be easily manipulated, and that changes how she approaches you in the future. By holding your ground, you show her and yourself that your attention is earned, not owed. Once she understands that, the way she treats you will shift permanently, because she knows she can't afford to lose the attention of a man who truly values himself. When a woman realizes she's lost your attention, her reactions reveal more than her words ever could. From sudden affection to subtle tests, every move she makes is rooted in the shift of power and value between you. The key is to remain grounded, consistent, and focused on your own life. Your attention is not something to be given away freely to anyone who doesn't truly earn it. When you stand firm, you teach her and yourself that respect, effort, and mutual value are non-negotiable. In the end, you don't just keep your power, you raise your worth.